Feels like we've been waiting for a while. We can't really include the January camp cupcake, as you so affectionately know it. But it feels like a long time since we've got something serious for the U.S. men's national team. That will change here March 21st when the Nations League begins, and we got a 60-man preliminary roster announced today on Monday. That's got to be trimmed down to 23. So while unless we want complete chaos, and maybe we should just make it a 60-person roster. I mean, you have a little bit of everything. And looking at a 23-man roster, you can see you've really got to hit this, especially in the U.S.'s case because they have a key suspension. So you've got to do due diligence in selecting backups at certain positions, not all the positions. Remember, we have to take 3 goalkeepers. I wonder how many managers would like to take 2 goalkeepers, but the tradition is to take 3. You really don't need 3. So of the 10 other playing positions, you will have 20 players. So you have cover for each one, so to speak. You got to play to your strength. And I believe March 11th is when they're going to, it has to be announced by March 11th what the 23 players will be that will play in the Nations League. So we're going to break all of that down here on the Soccer OG. Check out the Soccer OG podcast where all podcasts are available. We have our MLS preview there with Gio Savarese joining. We'll have a new one out this week as well, so stay tuned to that. Appreciate for all the support worldwide. And we cover the big stories everywhere. So check that out if you will. I mean, just support and like and subscribe us here. Hit that button, smash it. So we're not going to sit here and list the 60 players on that roster. We are going to, my estimation, I mean, maybe we could do it a little closer to March 11th, but let's get it out of the way now so we can build up to it. Because a lot can change too. I'm going to give you my 23-player roster. I feel pretty good of it. This is a combination of what I think Greg Berhalter and the U.S. staff are thinking, and how you cover this accordingly, and just common sense. So the 60-player roster, we saw John Brooks on there. I thought it was refreshing. Like the grudges that Greg Berhalter has, it's been cleared certainly with Gio Reyna. Gio Reyna is going to be a key part of this squad, not the 23, the starting 11. And maybe John Brooks could move forward. He's certainly earned a spot in the 60. The question, could he earn a spot in the 23? I don't think he's quite there yet. And doesn't maybe not fit the profile, but if there is a need, and center back is a position of need, then maybe he can pop on there. So you had John Brooks there. You had Esmir Bajraktarovic, who started for New England, the teenage phenom who was in the January camp. He is one for the future, so as much as we would like to maybe get him going on the international stage, I don't think it happens now. Tyler Adams was on this roster. I don't think there's time for him to get back, even if he played this weekend for Bournemouth. It's no way that I think you really want to bring him in there, considering the amount of time that he has been out. It has been lengthy, to say the least. So those some interesting names on the 60-player roster. I just don't think we are going to get some of those that I just mentioned. Some guys, Paxton Aronson. By the way, this 60-player roster coming off one of the best weekends in Americans abroad history. I think it's well documented on all the great accounts out there that cover the U.S. players in great detail. Goals scored not just in Europe, in Mexico. We saw Cade Cowell and Brandon Vasquez score in Mexico, both who are on this 60-player roster. Incredible performances across the pond with a lot of goals being scored by a variety of players, including Chris Richards, who scored, the center back. He is starting to get a lot of playing as well, and we'll see where he stands. He's certainly going to make the 23-player roster, and I would imagine is close to a lock in the starting 11. Even before he started logging games at center back, remember he played kind of like a withdrawn defensive midfielder, kind of like a third center back in my estimation. But now as a true backline defender who is showing some prowess in set pieces, or it wasn't a set piece, I think it was a cross back in off a set piece where he scored the goal against 10-man Burnley. So we got to take that too as a grain of salt. Maybe the worst team in the Premier League, and they were down a man. You know what? We don't take it with a grain of salt. Let's celebrate Chris Richards scoring. There were some masterclass performances. Weston McKennie, that was the best. The game was too early for me to watch, so I watched the extended highlights. But the extended highlights had Weston McKennie in every clip. It's like those 15-minute highlights, which is kind of like close enough to watching the game. I'll watch the games that start a little bit later. I'm not getting up that early, which is 3:30 Pacific time. Sorry. Weston McKennie was phenomenal, and based on all accounts, he's making a great partnership with Dusan Vlahovic. He assisted on both Vlahovic's goals. Beautiful touches, beautiful in transition play. He did hurt his shoulder, and we worry about how serious that will be. Massimiliano Allegri, the Juventus coach, was asked about the injury. He said every now and then he has that issue, which tells me he should be okay. We still have almost just under a month before that game, so I think he'll be okay. Look, he's been so good. Even if he's missing a leg, quite frankly, Weston McKennie makes this roster and makes the starting 11. He has been as good as Christian Pulisic has looked, as great as Josh Sargent has developed down there in the English Championship. No one can touch, in my estimation, what Weston McKennie has done. So he's going to be, I'm going to show you my starting 11 here, and then we'll build out the rest of the roster. But Weston McKennie is going to be in my starting 11. I'm going to assume he is going to be able to get in there. As we have said in the past shows, the big concerns are center back, who starts, who you bring, the situation after Balogun and Pepe as a third forward, and can that forward play out wide? Because Josh Sargent is a better option than anyone as a winger outside of Pulisic and Weah. I think Kevin Paredes, Taylor Booth, did not play, had an injury as well, so we got to keep an eye on him. So Josh Sargent's a better option than all of them, so I don't know how you not bring him in. So I have Sargent in the 23-player roster as well. But these are the questions. Goalkeeper, Matt Turner's not playing. He might play soon. The Nottingham Forest goalkeeper, whose name escapes me, has not been good. So maybe Matt Turner gets another shot. I certainly hope so. But even if he doesn't, he is still our number one. But this was a fantastic weekend. I mean, well documented. Johnny Cardoso scoring a goal. Player after player playing important minutes. Gianluca Busio with an incredible assist in Serie B as Venezia trying to come back up. So it was just not just quality, it was quantity, it was volume of performances, and that's what made this weekend so good. I'm not going to argue with anyone. I can't think of a better weekend than what we saw because the volume of players is through the roof and playing at big clubs. So let's break into that 23. I have some interesting choices. Again, I think I try to make sense. I'm not going to be cute. I'm trying not to be cute. I'm not going to try and be a contrarian by any means. I'm just looking at what we have and leaning into what that is. And there might be some MLS players you may not agree with. And I got to tell you, we have some MLS players on the national team that A, could easily be playing in Europe, and B, are better than some players. Better than some players, or at least at the level or better, that are playing overseas. So here's my starting 11, and we'll fill in the gaps. We're going to go, obviously, Matt Turner in the back. Jedi Robinson will be the left back. I'm going to go with Tim Ream, Chris Richards. Serginho Dest is there, although he is suspended for the first game, so Joe Scally should move up to the starting right back. But I'll leave Dest there, because remember, the first game is March 21st. USA plays Jamaica. Mexico plays Panama. Then the winners play each other on March 24th there in Arlington, Texas. I'll finish this starting 11. I'll get into some of the details on the approach of this tournament as well. So how does this midfield look? Gio Reyna will be at the top of it. I want to keep McKennie in a role that he's playing at Juventus where he's a little advanced, but if we don't have a pure number 6, and I want to put Johnny Cardoso in there. I just don't think he has enough reps to jump over Yunus Musa, who has been a sub for AC Milan. So I'm going to put Musa. McKennie's going to have to swallow his pride a bit, come back, and Gio Reyna is going to pull the strings in front of them. Flo Balogun, who scored on the weekend, I think that was the biggest item of news of any player because of the pressure we're mounting on him and the responsibility he's going to have. So we need him to score goals, and he scored. Christian Pulisic, Tim Weah on either side of him. That is a no-brainer. Gio Reyna. You know, I've had this discussion on social media and just out on the street. I get out a fair bit. Should Gio Reyna play, even though he is not going to be playing much with club? Didn't play with Dortmund. Hasn't really played much with Nottingham Forest. I don't think that's going to change. I don't think he's going to play a featured role with Nottingham Forest, who need every result here. And Morgan Gibbs-White is not going to be replaced. He played 15 minutes or so in the most recent defeat to Aston Villa. Didn't play in the game before. But should he be playing for the national team if he's not playing for the club? He's too good not to. That's just the bottom line. He is too good and important for us. We've seen him when he's with the national team. We play through him. He is in ink in this starting 11. If it wasn't him, then you could maybe put McKennie, Musa, and bring in Johnny Cardoso. I don't think that's a stronger trio than having Reyna in there. So Reyna is in. So there is the starting 11. All those 11 players are going to make this roster without question. So that's not a surprise to any of you there. Quickly for the goalkeepers, because this is a bit of a, okay, whatever. I don't want to sit here and lose sleep, and whoever is selected from the goalkeepers, I don't want to argue it, because Matt Turner should not be looking over his shoulder. Ethan Horvath, who now is enjoying life in the English Championship, has had enough experience with the national team. He makes it here. And I'm going to put Gaga Slonina, still learning, but the most high-profile, probably most talented young keeper we have, although a few guys are starting to push him, but he makes this roster. So, defensively, we'll start with the center backs. Tim Ream is on the decline. Can we all agree with that? It's amazing it's lasted this long. We've said on this show in the past, Tim Ream has been a freak of nature. Playing this well into his mid-30s is completely unexpected. But we know, because age comes to all of us, that eventually he's going to hit a wall, and he's doing that, not starting with any frequency. He's kind of the third center back with Fulham right now. He'll play some. Still a Premier League defender, and we got to be proud of it. Definitely have lost a step. He still should be starting for the men's national team in this Nations League tournament. However, by Copa America, we might have to be looking for an alternative. And then if you want to realistically look at that, you've got to start playing that alternative now alongside Chris Richards, who I think for the time being is locked in there. So my center backs that I am going to bring, and this is where it gets a little nerve-wracking because you got to hit this. Cameron Carter-Vickers is in there. He came in as a sub. He's been injured, hasn't played a lot, but still he's played enough for the U.S. team. You put him in there. The other is Miles Robinson, the first MLS player to make this squad. And Miles Robinson, I believe, because of the similar profile of Tim Ream, a better passer than Carter-Vickers and Chris Richards, Miles Robinson, we could see the Richards-Robinson center back pairing. I think that is very realistic. I see a lot of people throwing out rosters without Miles Robinson. I just don't see how that is possible. Miles Robinson, I think, is on the inside track. And if I'm wrong on this, I will bite the bullet and move on. But I just don't see it. Because he could easily be playing in Europe. He's that talented. Gabriel Heinze, the Argentine coach of Atlanta United, identified him and saw how good he is. So I'm comfortable with Miles Robinson, despite the fact that he may be playing with FC Cincinnati, all right? Fullbacks. Scally will play for Dest. Dest will be there. He will be there for the final, hopefully against Mexico. Jedi Robinson. You get one more fullback. You have to have one more fullback, at least to cover the Jamaica game. And to me, that's DeJuan Jones, another MLS player. He can play left back or right back. That gives him a huge edge here over others like Reggie Cannon, who's now moved to the bench for Queens Park Rangers. And a couple other, Shaq Moore has been a guy that Greg has liked. I think DeJuan Jones is just too much of a slam dunk to get in there. Maybe you don't bring in a fourth fullback and you hope that Scally and Anthony can get you through and then you can bring in Dest. I don't think that is feasible. You bring in DeJuan Jones. So those are the players that you'll have defensively. Midfield, I think, is pretty straightforward. We had Reyna, Musa, McKennie. You have three direct backups. Malik Tillman, Luca De La Torre, Johnny Cardoso. So 6 midfielders. and you have that defensive cover in Cardoso, who did that score a goal this weekend and is looking phenomenal. My only issue with Johnny is he hasn't played enough for the national team, but I think we will remedy that here in the Nations League. And remember, we're building to Copa America. Do you use the Nations League as a prep for Copa America? Not exactly, because you want to win this as an important competition, but obviously Copa America is where you want to fine-tune everything. So that leaves up in the attack. I mentioned Josh Sargent. He is in here. He will be a third striker. He will also be a wide player for Weah or Pulisic. If you need a little more pace, we bring in Kevin Paredes. And that is it. That's the 23 players. No Taylor Booth. Even if he didn't pick up an injury, I don't think he's had enough games coming back from a long layoff to get on this roster. Maybe for Copa America if he continues his ascendancy. But I would rather have Sargent than Taylor Booth, who has been playing so well. But maybe Greg Berhalter wants a little more pace or something that can get someone who can get a little more vertical. I'm okay with this. So I gave you the starting 11, the other 12 players: Ricardo Pepi, Josh Sargent, Kevin Paredes, Malik Tillman, Luca de la Torre, Johnny Cardoso, Miles Robinson, Ethan Horvath, Gaga Slonina, Joe Scally, Cameron Carter-Vickers, DeJuan Jones. I'm happy with my roster. I think it's going to look pretty close. I'm going to put the over-under at 20 and a half players correct. I think most people are going to get it, but there's going to be some arguments on a couple players, but we'll find out. We'll find out very soon. Important games for the U.S. coming. The Soccer OG. Check out the Soccer OG podcast where all podcasts are available. What am I doing with this pen? Like and subscribe us here. We'll see you very soon. Let's go USA.